Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another book review from me, your host Logan Albright. Today I'm talking about this little interesting book called The Brendan Voyage by Tim Severin. This was a present from my sister, who knows I like books about sailing voyages, and this book was written in 1978, and it involves the author, I'm sorry, did I say Tim Severin? It's Tim Severin, I got that wrong. It involves the author trying to recreate a fabled medieval voyage pre-medieval voyage by a monk named Saint Brendan, an Irish monk, who is alleged to have sailed across the Atlantic Ocean in a boat made of oxhide, made of leather, and visited the New World, and being one of the first people to arrive there from Europe, beating the Vikings, beating Columbus, beating everybody. And people were skeptical as to whether this could actually happen, because for one thing, leather deteriorates pretty badly in water, and so they thought it wouldn't actually be doable. But Tim Severin said, no, I think it can be done, and I'm going to try to do it. And so it's a nonfiction book from the 70s about that voyage. And it's actually a ton of fun. I just kind of flew through it, reading it. A lot of it sounds made up. I mean, a lot of it sounds like a fictional story because it's such a colorful cast of characters and so many wild things happen. And although I love exploration and I love sailing and I love all these kind of ideas, there's a lot of it that I didn't expect to love that I found really, really interesting, such as coming up with the materials for the boat. The boat was made from oxides. He had to source the oxides. It wasn't easy to do. Then he had to source the way that the oxides were cured. The leather was treated with using oak bark. I have no idea what that means. I don't know anything about the process of tanning leather, and I don't know how you use oak bark to do it. But that's how the Saint Brendan did it, and so that's how he wanted to do it. And there's all these like very improbable sounding things that crop up in the book, like, oh, I have to find someone who can tan leather and oak bark. There's only one company left in Ireland that still does it, and you have to go down there and find them. And then it comes time to work the leather into the hull of the boat, and they're like, oh, nobody can do this kind of leather work anymore. It doesn't exist. Oh, but there's one man, a fabled legendary man who's been retired from the leather industry for 30 years, but who used to make horse harnesses for the queen, and we have to go find him. No one knows where he lives anymore, so they track down this guy, and he helps them make the boat. They assemble a motley crew from a variety of countries, and they end up losing some of their crew and gaining some new crew, and like a mysterious man from the Faroe Islands shows up who can't really speak English, who wants to be part of the crew, and they have this incredible voyage across the Atlantic. And it's all detailed, and it's very well written. I'm always kind of amazed at how good explorers are at writing. I don't know why they would be good at writing. I can't think of any particular reason why that should be the case, but every time I've read a book by an explorer, they've always been very good writers. And I think part of it maybe just has to do with the different time in which they've lived, because when I first saw this book, I thought this looks like kind of a modern book, and I was a little skeptical because as viewers of my channel will know, I don't like modern books. Most of the time I read them, they're disappointing because nobody knows how to write anymore. But this is from the 70s, and it's very well written, and it was a great pleasure because he actually does know how to write. He can craft a very compelling narrative, and I guess maybe that has to do with keeping meticulous ship's logs and remembering everything. But you know, there's storms, and there's wildlife, and there's all these impediments to them getting across the ocean, and I'm always super attracted to that. There's something wrong with me where I'll read a passage about like being, you know, freezing cold and wet all the time and out at sea and almost getting capsized because of a storm and being attacked by sharks. And I think, man, that sounds awesome. I'd love to do that. I don't think I would really love to do it, but there's something romantic and beautiful about it that really appeals to me. So the voyage itself is fascinating. The crew is fascinating. And I really enjoyed kind of all the discussion of kind of forgotten arts of craftsmanship that don't really exist anymore, and how the materials that they were able to work with in the 6th century were generally better and more durable, and they had a kind of lost knowledge on how to do these things than we have today. And so our hero was having to make do with modern materials that weren't quite as good as the original materials that St. Brendan used under. Another thing was like flax twine. He was trying to use all period materials, and like coming up with the flax twine that could hold the sails together and everything was really hard because they don't make it as good as they used to. The original Brendan Voyage by the Saint took about 7 years, stopping off at various points, and our hero did it in about 2 years. He took this kind of roundabout northern route where he stopped off in various parts of Ireland and then went up to Iceland, the Faroe Islands, and then Iceland, and then Greenland, and then finally northern Canada, like Newfoundland, around there. And that's apparently because it's very difficult to sail from east to west straight across the Atlantic because of the way that the winds work. And you either have to go around to the south and take a really long route, or you have to go around to the north and take a very dangerous and hard route with a lot of ice and a lot of storms and things of that nature. It was interesting to hear him talk about the changing climate, because when St. Brendan sailed in 1,500 years ago, almost 1,400 years ago, it was a lot warmer than it is now. And so there was a lot less sea ice up there in the north, and it was a lot more easy to travel, a lot fewer storms. But now it's very cold, and so he had much more difficulty getting around that. There was also a lot of interesting stuff about whales. They saw lots of whales on there. There is a legend in the book that chronicles St. Brendan's voyage about him landing on the back of an island and starting a fire, and it turning out to be the back of a whale, and that then tried to swim away with them on top of it. Probably not true, but an interesting story. And Tim Severin was kind of surprised and interested to see how many whales the boat attracted and how many of them would be interested in it and curious about it and would come up and gather around the boat, because it was a novelty for them. And it must have been much more of a novelty 1,500 years ago, when no boats had ever really crossed the Atlantic before. It would be interesting to know what the whales thought of that and how they responded to it. So yeah, just like a general great adventure story. I really like adventure stories, but the true adventure stories are even particularly interesting because they actually happened, and it's not just the product of an author's imagination. This book is in a series by the Modern Library. Is it the Modern Library? Yes. Modern Library, and there's an exploration series, and they have other books in the series that involve like polar expeditions, Antarctic expeditions, all kinds of different things. And I may well pick up some more volumes in the series, because I do like exploration stories. I've read quite a few in the past, and I've always found them a good yarn, and it's always kind of inspiring to see how men pit themselves against nature and against the elements and against the sea in particular, the sea being a particularly formidable adversary. And just do it out of love of learning and wanting to explore and wanting to find new things and wanting to discover things. And in this case, the goal was to prove that this fabled voyage was actually possible and could have happened. We don't know for sure that it did happen, of course, but it seems like it could have happened. It hasn't been definitively proven. But they found a way to treat the leather with oil in such a way that it didn't deteriorate in the seawater. I also enjoyed all the discussion of various types of food that they had to subsist on. The Faroese Islander that they meet has a thing for whale blubber, and he brings it on board, and everyone else finds it disgusting, but he really likes chewing it. And I went to Iceland late last year, and I was excited to try all the delicacies, and so I ate a lot of stuff like that, like the kind of thing that they were talking about in the book. And I liked a lot of it. I didn't like all of it, but I liked a lot of it. So it's interesting to hear the kind of different foods that you're stuck eating as you're traveling across the ocean, the North Atlantic Ocean, catching seagulls or puffins or, various types of fish and eating them. I did try puffin when I was in Iceland. It was one of the things I liked least out of everything I tried. I thought puffin was kind of gross, but I liked whale a lot, and I liked they have this delicacy called fermented shark. It's called hakari, I believe, and it's a fermented shark dish that is sort of notorious for being hard to eat, but I actually enjoyed it. So, but I love this kind of stuff. It's right up my alley. And if you too are like me and you enjoy nautical adventures, especially real-life nautical adventures that actually happened, and you're interested in the past and you're interested in the way things used to be done and the lost arts and the craftsmanship that don't exist anymore, I can highly recommend The Brendan Voyage by Tim Severin. It was a good yarn and a lot of fun, and I will check out more books in this series. That's all I have for you today. I will be back next Wednesday, as always, with another book review, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed the review, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you later.